Welcome to Xsite Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Hello, and welcome to Xsite Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, where we delve deep into the lives of our successful guests to find inspiration for our own growth and development. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. My guest today is the Director of Operations and co-founder of Xsite Captial Investments. He bought his first investment property in 2017 and transitioned to multifamily investing in 2019 with the acquisition of a 192-unit apartment complex. He co-hosts a multifamily-focused meetup in Baltimore, where he provides resources and adds value to individuals interested in growing their wealth and their mindset. He and his wife have 2 daughters. He loves to spend his spare time reading and reviewing data. Welcome, Leslie Awasom. Leslie, before we get into your life here, this just fascinates me. You love to read and review data. I don't know anybody else who loves that. Tell us a little bit about loving to read about data.
So there's something about data that excites me. Being able to put data together to tell a story is something that really fascinates me. And that's one of the things that I discovered with multifamily that really got me interested in the business. Because when you look at a property and you can look at the numbers can tell you a story about the property. And you could adjust that story by adjusting the numbers a little bit. So that I find something fascinating about numbers and how they tell the story about anything, like they say, numbers don't lie. So I like putting those numbers together and coming up with a story for everything. So I enjoy doing that.
I like the way you frame that. It tells a story. That does make it a lot more interesting than, these are just numbers on a sheet of paper. That's kind of boring.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from a story perspective, reframing it makes it sound a whole lot better there.
Absolutely.
Well, Leslie, I'm really interested in your background. You come from a different country, a different totally place than those of us who grew up in the United States. So tell us a little bit about your childhood and what it was like growing up, where you grew up, and where actually are you from?
Yes, so I'm from Cameroon. It's a small country in Central Africa. I came to the US about 20 years ago at age 17, about to be 18.
Wow.
My childhood in Cameroon, it was good. I had a great childhood. I was a happy kid for the most part, caught in my imagination, just love to get caught in my thoughts and imagine a lot of stuff. At that time, Cameroon was a very peaceful country. We live in a more of a community kind of environment where everybody looks out for each other, everybody helps each other. So I enjoyed my childhood. I had some great experiences growing up. As a young man, yes.
Well, you said you got lost in your fantasies and your dreams. What did you dream of becoming as a child?
So as a child, when I was young, my parents told me that I was going to become a pilot.
Is that right?
So I used to dream about becoming a pilot because at that time, in around our community, there was one famous pilot that saved some people from an air crash. So my parents thought, hey, you're going to become a pilot. So they blew that in my mind. So I used to dream of becoming a pilot. I used to dream of flying, going to distant places in the world. I used to dream of traveling the world, to dream of coming to the United States. Those are some of the dreams that I had. I remember I had these big dreams and imagination. I just didn't know where it was going to take me. I remember as a young man, I was reading a magazine and I saw like a really nice fancy Jaguar, and I telling myself at age 10 that I'm going to buy this car for my parents someday. I didn't even know where I was going to. Those are the kind of imaginations that I had. Yeah, just thinking far and getting caught in my thoughts sometimes.
Well, you said you imagined coming to the United States as a child, and you came here at 17, which is pretty young age. what's the difference between the fantasy as a child and the reality of being here in the United States?
In Africa, where we grew up, I think the U.S. has done a very good job of marketing itself around the world because if there was anything close to paradise, it is the United States. You know, that's the dream that we have of the United States,
Uh-huh.
the land of all possibilities, where you could become anything you want to become. You know, so those are the dreams that I had, and coming to the U.S. is not too far from that. You know, it's a great society to be in. There's a lot of opportunity for anybody that dreams and wants to go out there and work for it, you know. But it's just about staying steadfast. Nothing is handed to you, which is maybe a little bit of the fantasy part that gets pushed out there, that some people believe in the third world countries, that you come in here and everything is handed to you. But nothing is handed over to you. You have to go out and strive for it. But once you put in the effort, you get the results. And that's one of the most beautiful things about the society.
Mm-hmm. Well, you came at 17. Did you come by yourself? Did you come with your family? Or how did that come about?
I came with my siblings. My mother had migrated to the U.S. As a nurse a few years prior, and then she brought us all over. We all came at once with my siblings, myself, my two brothers, and my sister.
Okay.
Yes.
And so your mom was a nurse. So I guess that's how you got interested in the medical field?
Yeah, as soon as I came in the US, she was pushing me to get into nursing or medicine or get into the healthcare industry, but that wasn't really my point of interest. When I came in, I had started taking some computer science classes back home in Cameroon. So I was really fascinated by graphics and computer design and stuff like that. So I was dreaming of maybe doing something like creating cartoons or being like a graphic designer on the computers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came in, I started studying computer science. And at that time, I also did like a little programming course, but that was right around the dot-com crash in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So right when I was done with my programming class and I had interviewed for a job and got a job that was supposed to pay me like $16 an hour, which was a lot of money back then,
Mm-hmm.
the market crashed and
Mm-hmm.
all those opportunities went away.
Wow.
All the people that I was looking around me as guidance, as leaders in the industries, people to copy from, most of them lost their jobs. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them had to go back to switch majors. And it was just a bad time for me. At that point in time, the community that I was surrounded with, all I was getting was a lot of negativity. So I had to, I went through some challenging times because of that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I could go into that. Didn't cope with the aspect of being in a position where you don't see a future very well.
Mm-hmm.
Resulted to a lot of distractions that most teenagers will get involved in, partying with friends, hanging out, not taking school serious anymore, you know, and that culminated and led to me getting into like a severe car accident, where I veered off my lane. I fell asleep on the wheel, veered off my lane, and had on a head-on collision with another vehicle.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was like really like a pivotal moment in my life that completely changed the way I looked at things. So after that accident, as I laid in the hospital and saw my mother on my side, as I woke up from being unconscious and saw my mother on the side of the bed crying, it really affected me, you know. So when I got back home, I made the decision to change my life and do something different and to take life more seriously. So
Mm-hmm.
at that time, I was living in Maryland. 2 months later, I packed my bags and I got in a car and moved to North Carolina, to Greensboro, North Carolina. Drove my bags down there,
Oh,
and
really? Okay.
yeah, and lived down there with a cousin and registered for school and started nursing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's how I got into nursing. Because
So
I
where
got
did, where did you go to school then?
UNCG. I went to
UNCG. Okay.
yes,
So
sir.
yeah, I live here in North Carolina. So yeah,
Yes,
I thought that's probably where it was.
yeah.
Um, well, that was, I think for a lot of us, I think those very dark days are some of our best days because they actually transform us in ways that we never really expected to be transformed. But there was a lot going on in your life at that time. You were just new to the United States, had aspirations of IT work, and that didn't work out. and then you have this major accident, and it comes to a major change in your life. So you did go into the medical field, and you still, I guess, you're still working in that field. Um, so even though it wasn't your first choice, have you found rewards in working in the medical field?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, at a lot of times we make choices in thinking we're making second choices, but we don't know that we're making our first choices. It's like I've learned to understand that things happen the way they're supposed to happen, and I've learned to be more accepting when things do happen that way because I think it's creating a path that we gotta go that way.
Mhm.
Um, Started off in nursing, in the ICU, in the intensive care. I've had the opportunity to provide value to people in some of their most vulnerable moments. You know,
Mhm.
a lot of people don't get to see some of the things that we see and really be there for people as sometimes like we have been, so it's rewarding. It's not everybody that take care of that survives, but I can go to bed at night knowing that I was there for this person when maybe nobody else was,
Mhm.
and when they needed us the most. And as I moved forward in nursing, I went into anesthesia. Anesthesia too has been like a very rewarding career for me, because it encourages me to use my mind on a daily basis. It's like on a mental gym on a daily basis. So
Mhm.
overall, healthcare has been very good to me. Like now with everything that's going on with the economy and stuff, I'm thankful that I'm in a position where I can still go in and do work and that I'm still needed, while a lot of people are losing this opportunity. So
Right.
although it wasn't my first career choice, it has been a very rewarding experience, and it has been rewarding not just for me but my family as well.
Yeah, well, I ended up in counseling and psychology, and as a child and as a young man, I never ever ever imagined that that's where my life purpose would actually end up
Hmm.
being. But I found it's been the most rewarding aspect of my life. But I never would have imagined, ending up in
Yeah.
that particular area there. Well, you've gone through some major life changes here. Just think back up on your life for, say, perhaps the last 10, 20 years, and how are you different today, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually? And what are some of the, I think you've touched on some of the milestones in terms of what have come about making some of those changes, but maybe there's some other more internal aspects that we haven't talked about. So, how are you different psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually today than, say, 10, 20 years ago?
So 10, 20 years ago, I kind of had maybe like a fixed view of what I thought the world was and how it's supposed to be. Maybe that's what I had inherited growing up in the society that I grew up in. But today, I am more open-minded, more accepting, understanding that things are not always the way my perspective sees it. From traveling around the world and meeting other people, being exposed to different cultures and different religions, that has really opened my mind up and made me more accepting, to different cultures, different beliefs, and different perspectives. One key aspect that has always been a key part of my life is it's a belief in a bigger purpose. I think that's a belief that was implanted in me by my mother at a very young age. That I had conversations with her. She always used to tell me that I'm very smart, that I can do anything that I want to do. And I believe that. At a young age, I think they implanted those ideas in my head that I could dream big and think big, and that kind of helped me. And that has carried me along to all the challenges that I've had in life, because at every down moment, I've always looked at that and said, you know what, I can always come out of this. I can always be better, and it keeps pushing me forward. So I continue to grow. I can say that I can comfortably say that the person that I am today is not the same person that I was yesterday. I'm very open to the growth. I can also comfortably say that I am much happier today than I was yesterday, which is
Hmm.
something that is very important to me, because as I go through every day growing and becoming better in different aspects of my life, I feel like I am truly living my life purpose at this point in time.
That's inspiring. Um, so you've talked a little bit about that higher purpose. Can you define what that higher purpose is, and how is it that higher purpose actually inspires you?
For me, I've done a lot of personal work on myself to really find like what it is that is my higher purpose, and I see that when I am out there helping other people growing and sharing my growth with other people, I feel like I'm living my best life. And that is one of the reasons why I am so appreciative of the business that I'm in, because it was through this business that I got to discover a lot more about myself. From starting off reading books to gain financial independence, leading up to reading books on mindset and understanding yourself, has brought me to this point where I do know, what I'm
Mhm.
supposed to be doing on a daily basis. And when I get up on a daily basis and talk to somebody and tell them something that helps them, guides their thought, or something that challenges their thought, I am happy. So I'm really happy where I'm at in life. I take every day as it comes and I just keep moving forward. So I'm grateful to be where I'm at. Very grateful.
Well, share with us three good things from just the last 24 hours.
So my 4-year-old daughter came up with this sketch, and she said she wanted to make a comic book. And her name is Lyra, so she named herself Wonder Lyra as a superhero. And she wrote this sketch down, and I took the sketch, I went on Fiverr, I gave it to a graphic designer, and he came up with a comic book for it. And I presented it to her yesterday, and just the reaction on her face,
Uh-huh.
that was like one of the most precious moments in my
Oh,
life,
wow.
so that was really good. That's one wonderful thing that happened. Another great thing that happened is I introduced a good friend of mine that actually introduced me to the personal development world. I introduced him to one of the resources I use, which is Mind Valley. Mind Valley is an app that has a lot of personal development content. And he was very appreciative, very happy that I brought him into that community. He's somebody that I hold in high regard because I felt like he helped guide my path a little bit. So that was a great thing that I did. And we also currently in the process of closing on a deal that we're working on in DC. And it's such a great deal that any investor that I bring on board, I am happy that I am going to contribute to their wealth growth in some way or form. So I was able to bring one more investor on board yesterday as well, and continue to do that as the days go by.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to look back on the last 24 hours and look at what the good things are. Oftentimes we forget to celebrate those good things. But recent studies in positive psychology have shown us that it's important to celebrate the good things in our lives, and some of us don't do that naturally. What is it you like to do in life? Is besides reading and studying data, what is it that you do just for fun, just for pleasure, just because you can do it, and nobody's going to stop you from doing it?
I love flying drones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do. I
Well,
enjoy flying drones. I have a couple of drones in my house.
all right.
So I
Wow.
go out and I fly it sometimes myself, just to see the perspective of the Earth from the top.
Uh-huh.
It's something that fascinates me about that perspective. So
Yeah.
I love doing that. And the other thing that I love doing on a daily basis when I can fly is just spending time with myself and my thoughts and my imagination. I do that on a daily basis, and it's something that I've always, from a young boy, I've done, and I find comfort in that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I think most introverts need that time. So,
You hit the nail on the head right there.
yeah, so many people are complaining about this shutdown and how
Mhm.
awful it is, and I'm just going, isn't this the way life is supposed to be?
Exactly. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, it has not bothered me one little bit. So I have one last question. We're coming close to the end of our time here.
Okay.
And I hope to have you back on the show here real soon, because we're just getting into your life and just now getting to know you.
Okay.
But before we go into my last question here, tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you.
So you could find me on our website, which is www.xsitecapital.com. That is X as in X-ray, SITE capital.com. And we also have a Facebook group called The Exciting World of Multifamily Investing. Please sign up for the group or come to our website. I have my contact information on there. Reach out to me at any time. Anything that I could help in your path to greatness or your growth, please don't hesitate to reach out.
I like the name of your company. It's creative and inspiring as well there. Well, my last question is, when you come to the end of your life, how would you like your epitaph to read?
I'll say, here lies Leslie, somebody that contributed in making the world a better place than he met it.
Very good. It looks like you're well on that path to doing that.
Thank you.
I hope you have a very long and prosperous life.
Thank you, sir.
Before we read that epitaph.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you so much for being on the show, and I look forward to having you as a guest in the very near future here.
Oh, Alan, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to be back.
Very good.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.